So hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We are incredibly excited to have Elyana Matos and Juan Carlos López with us today to talk about navigating academic spaces as migrant scholars, how the academy and common practices in academia imposterize academics belonging to equity deserving groups, and how we can resist imposterization. Elyana is an experienced adult educator with over 15 years of specializing in teaching Spanish and English and currently teaches at Acadia University. And Juan is a soil microbial ecologist who has come to focus on pedagogy, inclusion, and student success, and is currently the director of the virtual Maple League Teaching and Learning Center. This is just a very condensed introduction to our wonderful speakers today, but I don't want to take up any more of our time together. So I'm going to pass it over to them to take it away. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen. And then you let me know if I'm actually sharing it. It looks like it, right?
I think sharing us.
I
think you're sharing the full screen, so you might need to so we can see your notes.
Let me do. I think I chose the wrong one. Let me try. Of course, because I just practiced this, right?
It was working beautifully before.
Yeah, there. Am I sharing?
Perfect. Yes.
Yes. All right. So, just one. Okay. No, actually, let me move this. Just want to make sure that we can read the full screen on our end. All right. So, thank you for the invitation. I just would like to start by acknowledging that we live, work, and play in the traditional and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq Nation, and I say that as my commitment and our commitment to listen and listen and listen. And then when you are done listening, you go back and you listen and listen again, like a very dear colleague of mine says. And I'm listening to learn. I want to learn about the truth. I want to learn what has happened, what happened in the past, and what still happens today. And with that knowledge, move to with the recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission towards decolonization, indigenization, and reconciliation, like another very dear colleague of mine says. In these lands where we are at. I would also like to recognize that these lands have received people of African descent for several centuries. And, you know, even the story of the first recorded contact, it's more than 300 years ago. And that person actually came as a translator between the Mi'kmaq and the colonizers. So in itself, that story is rich because that means that there was contact, you know, for that translation to be able to happen. So, and I do that again in the same spirit of listening and listening and listening, learning, and with that knowledge, moving towards a better future for everyone in these lands. And I do that as from my perspective as an immigrant and a settler in these lands. So thank you very much for joining us. Today, as Jenny mentioned, I'm Juan Carlos López.
Elyana Matos.
Yes, and today we want to talk to you a little bit of on imposterization. So we call the presentation "We Matter." Together, we can resist imposterization. And you will see later in the presentation what Jenny kept the presentation short because we're going to talk a little bit about ourselves as we move in the presentation.
So what are we talking about today? First of all, thank you so much for having us, and thank you all so much for coming in to listen to us. I said at the beginning that there's going to be a few disclaimers. Okay, so before I go with the outline, one of the disclaimers is that we don't intend to come here as experts. We just want to share with you the few things that we have learned and discussed with other people. And we also want to hear from you. So Jenny gave a beautiful introduction, and I think she made us look a lot better than we would have ourselves. So whatever we say about ourselves is not going to look as great as what she said. So thank you so much for that. So we're here to share with you the things that we have explored and the things that have happened to us. And we also would like to hear from you. That's part of the things we're going to be doing today. So what else are we going to be doing? Oh, second disclaimer, I have a visual impairment and I can't see very well. So if you look at, I can start getting very close to you, I apologize because that's going to happen at some point. So what are we going to do today? We're going to talk a little bit about our journey into academia. We're going to be talking about imposter phenomenon and how it is, who gets this imposter phenomenon, and how it is handled. We're going to talk about also imposterization, which is the title of our presentation, how it shows up, again, what can we do about it? And we would like to, throughout this process that we talk about these things, we would like to hear from you too. So at some point, we're going to be stopping and letting you give your own opinions, okay? So I don't know how many of you are around, but you can raise your hand, you can post in the chat, whatever makes you feel more comfortable, okay? This is also a space where you can decide what makes you feel more comfortable, so go ahead.
So a little bit about ourselves. So I am a biologist. I'm a soil microbial ecologist. I did my undergrad I'm originally from Venezuela, but for my undergrad in biology, I went to the US. I got involved in, I did my undergrad, but I also got involved in research, and that motivated me to continue into grad school. I went back home to Venezuela. And that's where I went back to grad school, and I finished my PhD. And as I was finishing, I started applying for postdoctoral positions, and then I went to France, and from France, a year, wonderful, amazing year in France, I will never forget. And then after that, I went to the States. I spent 3 years at Penn State University, but don't you think that I got a 3-year contract? It was a year at a time contract kind of thing. And then a couple of years in Ohio, affiliated with Case Western Reserve, but I was in a lovely arboretum. And then finally moved to Canada. In Canada, I started teaching at UMBC. So I was in Prince George, BC, and I started teaching, in a precarious position, like course and a half was my first assignment, teaching. And then, I stayed there for about 4 years. And then I had a year of unemployment that I spent in Calgary, in Alberta. And then I got a year contract here at Acadia, where I'm right now. After that year, I reapplied for the position, and that's when I got the permanent position. I'm telling you all this so that you see that it wasn't necessarily a direct path, and the position I got was as an instructor. Right now, I'm in secondment, so I'm the director of teaching and learning for the Maple League of Universities, which is a consortium of 4 universities in Eastern Canada. And I'm also the assistant dean of EDI for my faculty. So that's where I'm doing right now. But before that, I spent over a decade teaching the first year intro labs. So that's a bit about myself in terms of the academic space.
Okay, I was thinking that you were going to change the slide.
Yeah.
Sorry. So Juan Carlos is like his journey into academia. My story is quite different. As Jenny had mentioned, I have years and years of experience teaching languages. I teach English and Spanish as additional languages. I've been teaching for so long that I confess that the first time I taught, I got a textbook that came with a CD. I was like, oh my goodness, technology has advanced so much, because I started teaching with cassettes. So this is how long I've been teaching languages. I originally have a degree in clinical psychology. And then at some point I said, well, this is not my thing. And I started teaching languages. So many, many years of teaching languages. But my journey into academia is not the journey, oh, I want to be an academic. I actually only started teaching in the higher education field 5 years ago. So I've been teaching for the longest time, but it has been either for community associations, either for private institutions, schools, many different educational environments, but higher education, this is a new thing for me. So I don't really consider myself, an academic in that sense. So talking about imposter phenomenon and those things, you could see myself being one that would be honestly affected, because I am the person carrying a piñata in the halls of the university and dancing salsa in the classroom, which is not what you typically will find. So I'm very far from being the stuffy professor. So the journey into academia is, I'm not really sure if it's a journey or kind of a pit stop for me.
So, of course, you have heard about, well, I shouldn't assume,
No.
But the title of the talk was imposterization, but we are starting in imposter phenomenon. So when we say imposter phenomenon, and this is where we want to hear a little bit from you, what comes to mind? What do you know about imposter phenomenon? Type on the chat, unmute, talk to us. You look like you're gonna say something, Andres. Cool.
Yeah, I was about to say that, yeah, it's when you feel that even though you have qualifications, you feel that they're not enough or that you need something else in order to continue or perform an activity.
Yeah.
Mhm. That's very good. Chat. There is something on the chat, but I don't know if I'm gonna get to it. Let me see. We have stuff in the chat. So,
Yeah, I can speak to that.
okay.
So, for me, at times it is this doubt about my research paradigm. Like, is that good enough? Because I come from this very different tradition. So, the doubts regarding the research paradigms, I think that's one factor that contributes to imposterization.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Tommy typed, like you are a new recurring character on season 6 of a TV show.
Yes, I love that. Oh, yes. I love that one so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feeling whatever knowledge you bring is not valid enough. A sense of everyone else knows what's going on, but you don't. You don't belong in the space.
Don't belong in this
Yeah.
space. Yes.
Feelings that whatever knowledge you bring is not valid enough, like that. I really like I'm gonna use this, Tommy, the recurring character.
Yeah.
I'm from South Africa and feel that I must always prove that I belong.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
those,
I'm so sorry to interrupt. It also feels like putting on several masks.
yes, 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 absolutely. So you're using like the terms that most people will talk about, just belonging, feeling valued, having that masking because you need to adapt to whatever environment is around. The character, I love that one. Yeah.
But you have also mentioned that that you do have the knowledge, and that's an important part of it. So you want to go for this?
Yes. So
Yes.
you're gonna put my clinical psychologist hat back, which I haven't used in so long, which is okay. People don't really need me as a clinical psychologist at this point. So when the imposter phenomenon was coined, that term, it was studied mainly studying female students who were in medical school, okay? And it was defined, and you have the slide here, you don't need to read the whole thing, but basically as a behavioral health phenomenon. So it's talking about health and actually your behavior. And when people were experimenting self-doubt, they did not feel that they had the skills, the intellect, or they were accomplished enough, even though they were what it was considered high achieving individuals, right? And then high achieving was a measurement that they decided, oh, they were in medical school, so they're high achieving. They get good grades, so they're high achieving. That was the way it was measured, okay? So they could not internalize that success. They were like, well, I'm here, but why did I get here? It was an accident. I'm not as successful as my other classmates. I got here, but I don't know why they chose me. And all of those things that they were thinking because they didn't believe that they were there for their own merits. Okay.
So that's yet another definition. So one was from the National Institute of Health in the States, and this one is from the American Psychological Association, and it's the same idea. It's highly accomplished, successful individuals. They believe that they're frauds, despite demonstrated high achievement. And so you essentially mentioned that this in your chat or in talking, right? And that is what the definition actually says. Now, what can we do about it? So
yeah. So you wanted to let me know where? Oh, okay. I'm going for that. Okay.
Yes, you are.
Okay. Yes. I thought you were going to ask them. Okay. So it was, this was first studied in the 70s. And as we saw, it was, females in the medical field. And all this comes from the medical field and from the clinical psychology field, right? So you're feeling all these feelings, you're doubting yourself, and all this will cause anxiety, it will cause depression, it will cause a feel of self-isolation. There are also things that come together with, oh, I am not enough. So how do we fix the problem? Oh, there are so many strategies that psychologists can bring to you to make you feel better. So we can have self-reflection. So think about yourself and like, how do I have the skills or whatnot? You can go to counseling. You can have cognitive behavioral therapy, just talk therapy. You can also at some point get pharmacological therapy if you need in case for depression or anxiety, things like this. And the last one is a gratitude exercises to focus on the things that you have accomplished, things like positive mindset. It's like, oh, look at all the things that I already have, right?
So even when you go in the National Library of Medicine, and they are talking about people going into medical careers, right? They say that these people in this area, educators, may have the potential that they recommend to the people working in training the new physicians or the new people in health area, is that they can be reassuring to students that they have earned their place, that that you should also keep an eye for addressing these insecurities promptly, right? And this is especially important, and this is going to be part of our conversation for people who are underrepresented in medicine and other professional fields. So we have these ideas like, yes, this may happen. We can intervene as a part of the system as the educator, right? And it's important, again, for these people in underrepresented fields. So when we think, again, I want you to let's think a little bit about, again, what we have been talking about, imposter phenomenon, right? And who is affected. So we started by saying, well, it was described for women, right? So that's one group. And notice there's a question mark, and Elyana will probably comment on that. But who else do you think, and you can say it, type it on the chat, who else could be affected?
And feel free to share, like just unmute yourselves or type it on the chat. So who gets these feelings of not being right for the position or an imposter?
I think anyone in a new position as well.
Anyone, okay.
Starting a new position. Yeah.
Anyone
Oh,
starting a new position. Okay. Yeah. Anyone starting a new position.
So new to a position, people from marginalized communities, non-majoritarian folks, multiple marginalized folk, racialized and in predominantly white spaces. I would say woman twice.
Yeah, I'm going to add, it's Sabrina. I'm going to add that at TFS, we have exceptional faculty who are at the top of their working profession, but they may not be trained in education. And we're looking at, how do we support them? How do we make them feel comfortable and not feel this imposter syndrome?
Okay. They're already at the top.
At the top, yes, of course. Yes.
They are, they're at the top of their fields in all of our programs.
Okay.
And so they come in and we need to give them the tools so that they are able to succeed as educators.
And this is what Andres was saying, like you're first starting a job in a different area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the thing is, it's not in their different area. It's in their field of practice.
But
It's
they were not
it's
teaching
about
before.
teaching.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have class straddlers, so people they moved. People from low socioeconomic status, to add to Sabrina said, people with lots of experience and skills, but not necessarily the credentials of formal academic background. People who from targeted minorities in wake of global wars. Thank you. All right, so what do we have from what we were reading?
Yeah, from the literature, what we have is people of color, neurodivergent people, that would include people with certain learning disabilities, autism, ADHD, people with anxiety, so many things that go in neurodivergency. People, depends on the way you want to look at it, people that are being disabled by the society or people with disabilities, people from low-income background. Interesting enough, meta-analysis that was done in 2019 showed that both women and men experience imposter syndrome, probably at the same rate. So it was first defined studying women, and that it was back in the 70s, and that tells you they targeted women for the study. It was like, oh, it happens to women. But after all these years, like, oh, it happens to pretty much both, like everyone. It doesn't matter really when we're talking about gender. It was basically everyone. But the other people that we're mentioning here felt a little bit more. And interesting enough, it didn't matter how far advanced in your career you were. If you're feeling like this, you could still feel like this, even if you had years in your career. So it's first starting, you might feel it even more. And sometimes it just stays there with you. It's interesting to figure out why, right?
Yeah. And all in all, the way to summarize this is historically excluded group members, and somebody mentioned earlier people with several. So what we know as people with intersectionalities, of course, will be affected by this. So if we go into again the literature and and as you see, we're trying to make a segue to the how to look at this. It's when we went tracking. Where do we make this change or where on an approach and how we call it and what we define it. And there was one very famous article from Harvard Business Review that was "Stop Telling Women They Have Imposter Syndrome." And there was another article that was actually before that by David Lerner that said "Imposter Syndrome, Academic Identity Under Siege, the Conversation," right? So they did not name it imposterization, but this is the gist of what they were trying to convey, so it's they were trying to say, well, why, questioning more, why are we feeling like this, right? Would you like to do the...
So, well, I'll give you a minute just to take a look at what it says about the imposter phenomenon. And this is, again, David J. Leonard back in 2014, talking about his own experience as a cisgender, white, male professor. And he said, well, given the dominant image of the white male academic, it is impossible to talk about imposter syndrome. He was phrasing it as syndrome, not phenomenon. In universal ways. Imposter syndrome is not just about feeling out of place or unworthy. It's a symptom of a culture that falsely defines success and worthiness through the myth of meritocracy. So lots of words to kind of explain what we were showing you when we had the list of people that have been shown in literature to present more this feeling of being imposters. So, thinking about this a little bit.
Yeah.
There's the term.
So if we were to use the term imposterization, how is this different? What do you think? How would this be different from what we have been talking about?
Like we had the imposter phenomenon, and now when we had the title to our talk, it was imposterization. So what would be different?
I'm thinking about how, like, if you are a person who uses a wheelchair, a curb is disabling. And how, when I think about imposterization, it's much like what the previous quote said, that this idea of a meritocracy builds a system wherein people start to feel they are imposters because of the comparisons that, like the false comparisons and the empty comparisons that the system imposes.
Yeah,
If that makes sense. That it doesn't live within the person, it lives within the circumstances around them.
it makes perfect sense. And we're also seeing that in the text.
Is something done to you?
Yeah.
Know who you are. That context you are in and how that causes you feel like an imposter. What Kate said. Yeah, exactly. So as you see, there had the conversation, of course, was around, but then came, and this is how we also found it, there came Angelica Gutierrez, right? And she's a Latinx scholar in the US, and she's in business. That's her area, right? And she did a series of work around imposterization, and she defined it as the policies, practices, and seemingly innocuous interactions in organizations that make or intend to make individuals question their intelligence, competence, and sense of belonging. Right? So we actually have, this is...
Oh, this is going to get a little tricky.
Yeah.
We can do this.
Yes, let's do it.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna try to very smoothly try to play a clip of her describing when she came with this term. So let me see if I manage to
And
do
if it doesn't go smoothly, we'll dance salsa.
Oh, yes. In the meantime, yes. Hold on. And I have it here. So I've stopped sharing, right? And now you let me know if you hear this.
I'll share with you the day that that particular term came to mind. So I had just delivered a presentation for an audience of entrepreneurs of color. And so I remember just being very excited when I got to deliver this presentation. And I started, talking about the extensive research on imposter phenomenon, also referred to as imposter syndrome. And so it was supposed to be an hour-long presentation. And Leslie, if you can just imagine this, about 5 minutes into my presentation, one of the participants raised their hand and said, I understand what you're talking about here, imposter syndrome, imposter phenomenon, but that's not what I'm experiencing. What I've experienced, and again, entrepreneurs of color, what I've experienced are other people trying to question my qualifications, my ability to succeed as an entrepreneur. And shortly thereafter, somebody else echoed that sentiment. And so I remember just freezing. I mean, can you imagine your audience straight up tells you it doesn't resonate. What you're talking about does not resonate with me. So I remember just freezing for a moment and thinking to myself, okay, I have two options. I can either just run out of this auditorium I'm embarrassed, right? I have nothing of value to offer these participants, or I can stay here, put my presentation aside, and just learn about their experiences as entrepreneurs of color. So I ended up doing the latter. And so for the remaining 40, 50 minutes, I basically just asked them to talk to me about the comments, the types of interactions that they've had with various individuals that either triggered or they felt were intended to trigger their feelings of inadequacy. That night, I remember getting...
So, oh, and by the way, that was Angelica Gutierrez. She was talking with in a podcast with Dr. Leslie Wang. The podcast is called Your Words Unleashed.
Yeah, we'll share that link.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll go very smoothly back to my PowerPoint and then share and then full screen. And then we should see it. Do we see it?
Nope, we're seeing ourselves. Are we not seeing ourselves?
Yes, they see it. Yeah, we're here. Oh, continue to share, he says. Yes.
Are you seeing our screen or are you seeing us? Okay.
Okay.
Good.
All right. So, I'm going to take that one.
Yeah, you take that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when Angelica Gutierrez describes imposterization, she says, well, where would you find this then? This idea of this, this essentially the system doing this to you, and what causes this? So she says one of the things that she identifies is the lack of diversity, particularly in leadership. Only dominant culture authenticity rewarded, forcing identity switching. So remember the conversation we were having earlier. So forcing identity switching to fit in, biases, microaggressions, and no space to talk about inadequacy feelings, right? So this is what she defines in her, or what she identifies in her work, right? So we wanted to tell you a little bit how it shows up for us, right? So I'll share. I have actually lots to share, but I'm gonna keep it to task. I'm gonna share one. remember I told you all the places I've been, and then I ended up working here. I was an instructor, so my position is predominantly teaching, although I'm able to do research, but it's not part of my job essentially, right? So I'm teaching. That's the big part of my job. So I was I was co-supervising a student doing their master's in my area of expertise, and this student was defending his thesis, his master's thesis. And I walk into the room, and at the time, the department head had to be the chair of had to be at the thesis, as part of the committee. And this is my department chair, the department head. He knows my background. He was here when I got hired. He knows everything. I walk in, and as I'm walking in, he asks, with the thesis in front of him, "What are you doing here?" I knew exactly what he meant. He had the thesis in there. He said who the supervisors were, but he never read my name. And what he was questioning is like, why would you be here in a master's defense? This was my student. Now, I'll give you a little bit more background, of why, and I could immediately read why he was asking that question, so it wasn't like I was second. It's like, oh no, I know why you're asking this. And I thought, that's where you have to raise very quickly, say, do I challenge that? Do I ask, But then this was a first generation student. He, from a first generation student, he did not come, he did not have lots of economic privilege. I knew all these things, right? And yet he was here in university, finishing a master's, and he had done a wonderful job. So what I told my supervisor is like, oh, I'm just here to see my student. I said the name, I'm here to see so and so shine, because he has done amazing work. And I just went and sat, and said nothing. But of course, I wanted to bring that, I did not want to make him more nervous. But yeah, I knew, that I was being my expertise was being questioned, because then again, I was hired to teach, never to bring my expertise. And I have way more examples, but I'll just let Elyana go.
Yeah. So to me, as I mentioned before, my journey into academia is not the regular path. Oh, I'm going to get a PhD, and then I'm going to go to university, and then it's not that way. I was hired into a university to teach languages, to teach Spanish specifically. And I have a master's in teaching Spanish as a second language. And I've been teaching, remember I told you about the cassette? So I've been teaching for the longest time, and I think I'm very proficient at teaching, but I don't have a PhD, which is really not the best way to make yourself be comfortable in a university, because you don't have a PhD and you don't do research. Like, no, but I was hired to teach languages, and I'm really good at teaching languages. So it happens a lot. But where it says here, can I share? I've been hired in a precarious position since I was hired. And I always get this feeling, I don't know if you're familiar with the term of being a grateful guest. Like, well, you should be very happy that you got hired, because you don't have a PhD. You didn't have experience teaching at the higher education level. So you should be very happy and grateful that we actually hired you. So don't complain. So do I have stories to tell? I have many stories to tell. Can I share them? Well, I don't know. Do I want a job? So am I allowed to share the stories? That's a tricky position. That happens to many people that are in precarious situations. So yeah, do you have a story? Yeah. Can you share it? Who knows? So that kind of will give you that feeling of, what do we do with that? Mm-hmm. Okay.
So now, Bakadia. Mm-hmm. Does it show up in your life? And if it does, in your life in academia, and how does it show up for you? And we will let you think about it a little bit. And if you want to share, great. If not, we just create a little bit of a space for you to think about it.
Think about it, yeah. Siguiente. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it is just an invitation. So these are the things we talked about. You can just reflect on them. And if you feel like sharing, please do. If you don't feel like sharing, you don't have to. We'll just give you a minute to think about this.
All right. So, Tommy, you want to go?
Yeah, I'll share. As someone, thank you for the PhD comment. I'm someone with a PhD, and there are moments when I also experience imposter syndrome. With Yorkville and Toronto Film School, one of the ones that I feel really keenly is around like dress code and like business casual and like the way I show up to work, not in a tie and blazer and kind of pieces for that. And then I notice when I walk into meetings with some senior leadership, male presenting senior colleagues all are dressed a certain way and I'm not. And I feel that sense of like, oh, I don't belong in this boardroom meeting kind of thing for that. And so that's what came to mind when I was thinking of that was clothing and those visual signifiers that maybe are against what a policy or something is saying or are within it, but then the perceived reality of how folks with power are dressing and those kinds of pieces as well. So that comes to mind for me.
For sure.
Navdeep, would you like to, did I say it correctly?
Yeah, you said it correctly. Thanks. Yeah, so when I started out as this migrant academic, I would literally feel like the bull behind you on the painting. I hope we can see that. You want to, you want to be pushy. You just want to, belong a little violently because that's the psychological need that you feel. But over a period of time, you kind of start realizing that you are good enough. And I've got a conversation for later. That is where I do want to talk about what happens next to imposterization. So I think I'll go a little later because that doesn't belong into this chat. Thank you.
Jenny.
Thank you. I was thinking about how I wish I'd heard this talk way earlier in my career. And I was just thinking about how when I was in undergrad, like I often felt like I didn't have enough education to know what I was talking about. And then when I was in graduate school doing a professional course-based program, and I was around a lot of people who had professional experience, I felt like I didn't have enough life experience to know what I was talking about. And then when I was doing my PhD, I felt like I didn't have enough research experience to know what I was talking about. So in every instance, there was something that like I didn't have enough of it to know what was going on. But what how it continues to show up for me, I think I was reflecting on this is even though I'm here now and I've gotten through those stages where supposedly I should have more experience, I have the credentials or whatever, I like those feelings that you experienced in the past still linger. And I still often catch myself assuming that people look for those things about me first. And so I think there's this like for me, and I think for a lot of people, there's this feeling of like, what do people see first? It's usually not who you are as a person or your personality or likes or things like that. So those things, like when we're talking about like masking or putting on a performance, I think it's like the automatic you switch into performing because you think that's what people are looking for.
At the risk at butchering your name, this is one that is really hard for me. So is it Luis or Lois?
Yes, it is Louise.
Luis. Ah!
Yeah. No, well, I'm originally from South Africa and I've also worked in England, but coming to Canada, my husband is always saying, "Oh, you're sounding more American or Canadian by the day." Because I actively the whole time am trying to imagine what I'm sounding like because it's a little bit tiring of where are you from? And I mean, I've got a PhD, I am enough, but why? And showing your credentials, yes, I've got a PhD, yes, I'm in teacher training, but changing basically who I am or how I sound just to fit in with faculty and students. So,
Yeah. Oh, lovely. Thank you so much.
Yes.
We don't have much time, so
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good. We're okay. We're okay. We're okay. We're getting there.
okay.
Okay, so you were asking, so what can we do? So there are Angelica Gutierrez has continued the work on this, but there is one article that we actually found recently that was in Forbes, and it has the same ideas, but it was easy to read quick. And one of the things that she was talking about is, well, so we have this, so it will be really important to make the distinction between what's of imposterization being different from imposter syndrome, right?
Because we're not saying that the imposter phenomenon does not exist. It does happen. It's not always a system, so it does happen. So we'll see. Okay, so what do we have here?
So as a good business person,
Yes.
she suggests let's do a root cause analysis.
If there's anyone in business, you'll know this better than we will. Yeah.
Yeah, we were laughing because it's like, yeah, business. So she says, well, first define the problem, and to do that, you can ask, why do you keep feeling or seeing, what is it that you keep feeling or seeing that you want to stop? So what is it? Try to find out what it is, what's happening, right? And once you have gone through that, you may collect data. And in what way? Well, what information or evidence is there to suggest that this is a problem, what you are seeing, right? How long has this problem existed? Are there specific situations in which this issue tends to surface, right? So it's asking you just to observe and watch with more intention, Would you like to continue?
Yeah, so we're trying to look for causes and try to think about, are there the causes external? Is it something that I am lacking? And try to find that root cause. So basically you're just doing a full analysis to see, well, am I lacking skills? Like as you mentioned before, if I'm lacking skills, am I not lacking skills? So you're trying to decide, is it something that's happening to me, that's been done to me, or is it something I'm really like, yes, I am feeling an imposter because maybe I don't have enough training in this area. If you do realize, well, I didn't have enough training in this area, well, maybe go take a workshop, or maybe go find a colleague or a mentor or something. And then it'll be easier to stop that imposter syndrome feeling, right? Because maybe it's not imposterization. Maybe you actually do need a little bit more skills. So when you're collecting data, you're identifying causes, something like that, which is suggesting, well, you take a look at your credentials, you take a look at what you've done, if you have any accolades, things like this, and define this problem and actually take a look at the facts, because feelings are not facts. That's what she's stating. And then you can see, well, is it being done to me? Is it the system, or is it actually me? Okay, so this is what she's saying. And that's her position. So,
and she's also says, that then the idea is that, once you have that, you can either take, find some kind of action. I just want to flag that there is a comment from Kate on the chat, and it says, the swing back towards meritocratic policies and politics is frustrating, scary, and exhausting. The root cause feels pretty damn systemic right now.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because she's not saying that doesn't happen. It's just like, just in case, okay, just make sure, right? But she's not. She keeps insisting on imposterization as the root cause of many of the problems. Okay, this is just like for you to make sure. Okay, you made sure. Okay, maybe it's not. Maybe it's definitely not you. Probably not you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the way she framed it in this article was like, say that you're applying for a promotion, and you decide, or there is a promotion, and you decide not to apply because you feel like you're not qualified, and then you can do this, root cause analysis with that. Is it that you are not qualified? Is it, what is it? Where's this? Why do you feel like you shouldn't even apply? Which is a very common occurrence, right? That people say, and I've done that myself. You say, oh no, I'm not ready for that, and then I've had to.
I think she presents this more not to bring it back to yourself, but to realize, oh, it's not me. It's still them. Yeah. So I'm maybe not giving justice to her words. Like, it's just like, yeah, it's still them. And one of the things we were discussing when we read this is like, yes, this sounds fantastic, but there are other ways to do this too, right? So what else can we do? And because when we're doing this analysis, it's easy to get lost. When you're thinking about yourself, it's very easy to get lost in what are the things that I have? What are the things that I don't have? What have I done? And I don't know if it happens to you, but it happens to a lot of people, that it's very hard to judge yourself. And it's easier to have somebody else to sit with you and grow through your credentials, go through your life experience and take a look at those things with you and make a more objective analysis and say, you're amazing. Look at all you've accomplished. Right. And in that sense,
finding community, it's very important, because I think a lot of this lives in the non-communic, lives with ourselves feeling that insecurity and not voicing that and trying to learn with others. So as Jenny was saying, I wish I had known this, that it is important to have the conversation and name what could be happening, and in that sense you can find community or you can find mentorship or hopefully also be a mentor for someone, but that idea of not going at this alone, uh uh because that's how it survives, how the system perseveres, right? It's just by keeping you isolated. So that part I found very helpful and important. So be strategic, right? Be strategic if you are already in that professional space, be strategic with your service, with your efforts, where you put in your efforts, where, if you're trying to advance, if you're trying to move up, you have to be aware that there is a limited time, that there is a certain expectation of you. Say that you are a racialized person in a predominantly white space, you will be most likely be asked to do more because of your identity, right? And more of the things that are not necessarily recognized. So that idea, that knowledge, that could happen, could also help you shape how you strategize your service and your effort, and you become selective. But at the same time, there are things that you will never stop doing. So one of the things that I say, a lot of students, so once I open my mouth, so the accent thing, so if I stand there and they don't know my name and I'm just standing there quietly, nobody would know that because I'm white passing, right? Cisgender male, white passing, I pass. But then the minute I open my mouth, it's like, oh, he's from somewhere else. So I end up having to work with a lot of students who are marginalized in many ways, a lot of the international students, but in different ways. And I couldn't give that up, so I know I have to be strategic. I cannot be spending my time doing this, but I could not assess the students in this way. So one way to do this was a recommendation from a book called Higher Expectations, from Roberta Hawking and Leslie Kern, and they had a beautiful chapter on transforming what you did. So they had the example, met with racialized students. When you do your reporting, later for promotion or what have you, you start using the words, supported university CTEI initiative, engaged in this number of hours of mentorship, acted as informal faculty advisor for, this many students. So you start translating that work, that very meaningful work, into something that looks like, what will get you a promotion. So those are, just a very snippet of what you could do to try to take advantage of what you are doing.
And this is twofold. It's not only for reporting for other people, it also helps you because you realize all the things that you're doing are so valuable. And when you're like, okay, so I can see my own value. The system is pressuring me not to feel valued, but these are the things that are valuable. So also to boost up that sense of value that the system is not giving you. And I do apologize because really it's a system that needs to change. But it's hard to change the system, so we have to do other things on our own. So it's better to do things on our own, but do them with other people. So share concepts and strategies. When we do this presentation, our idea is mainly to have a community of people that will know these things and can share them, pass them along, right? To pass them on to other people. We can't be isolated. We are thinking this happens just to me, it doesn't happen to anyone else. It's just me. I am not valued. It's me. I don't fit in this space. The system is made for us not to fit in these spaces. So
for instance, that little chapter from this book, I actually shared with 3 or 4 colleagues that were going for promotion this year that were doing all this work. And I said, you are doing all these things. I don't know if you're putting this in the dossier, but I'll give you the language to do that because this is important, right? So those are ways of sharing and trying to help people.
And also sharing your own feelings of feeling like an imposter will let other people know, oh, I'm also feeling like that. It's not just me. So, and you can share, oh, I have this knowledge now. It's not you, it's not me, it's the actual system that's doing these things.
reaching outside your circle, your discipline, your institution is very important. Sometimes it's hard to have these conversations or even to openly express these feelings or this, with people who are around us. So I have found, and I'm by virtue of working, for instance, in the Maple League, where I work with colleagues from 4 institutions, I have found a lot of knowledge and power, in being able to connect with people outside my circle and having these conversations.
And this is the teaching part of us, includes students. They also need to know about this. It doesn't happen only to people in the workplace. It doesn't happen only to us as academics. It also happens to students. A lot of students feel out of place when they come to university, either because they don't feel like they know enough, like Jenny was saying. They feel like, oh, I am not part of the majority. I don't come from where they come from. I don't look like they look like. There's not one professor that looks like me. And they get all these feelings and they carry that throughout the whole time they're studying and when they go to the workplace. So let them know about these things. Let them know what the system is doing. We had a whole other presentation just talking about how to reduce the feeling of imposterization for students. But let them know about this and do research and find out how can you help them feel that they matter in university. There's a very interesting article, and I think we can share that one too, about belonging and mattering. And they were explaining, and you can assume that belonging includes this, but sometimes belonging, they try to tell you, well, belonging is fitting in, and sometimes people just don't fit it. So the article about mattering just express, well, when you matter, you feel valued, even if you don't fit in. Maybe you'll never fit in because you will always be a little bit different, but you will feel valued. So thinking about how to make sure that the people around you feel valued and that their voices matter will be more important than feeling that you have to fit in and conform to the norm.
And part of why we're talking about the strategies and we're talking about things to do in this is that we need to work towards fostering and supporting representation in leadership. And this is the part that I often have the internal conflict. It's like, do I want to assimilate? Do I want to play this game? Well, to a certain extent, and this will be my words, nobody else's words, but my words, I kind of have to play the game because we need to be in certain places to be able to make this change. So, by fostering and supporting that representation, hopefully we'll change all these things that go that we've been mentioning as a systemic problem. What do we have? We have 4 minutes.
We have 4 minutes.
Okay.
We have 4 minutes for them to tell us things.
Yeah. So why don't we start? Well, we had.
Oh, we can just skip those.
Yeah. Let's skip those.
We'll let them have them.
Yeah. No. Let's go to. Yeah. This was more of what we were saying. So So tell us. I saw something in the chat, but then it disappeared on me. So I'm gonna stop the presentation so we can see your faces. All right, we see a hand. Navdeep.
Yeah, it's my hand, this hand. I love your sense of humor. Amazing, amazing. You're great presenters. Yeah, I had a quick reflection on what happens after we identify the experience of imposterization. So that kind of has happened to me. So, once you have this psychological language, once you know that you were feeling like an imposter and that you shouldn't feel like that because you are good enough, the aftertaste that kind of still is in your mouth is that of feeling dislocated. So you no longer feel like the imposter, but now you start feeling like the dislocated migrant academic. And this generally happens because the academic tradition you come from versus the one that the host country, the host institution is having is very different. And what I realized is that some of the onus is on the migrant academic too, because I see how much is being suffered by me, but as an academic, migrant academic, but then some of the onus is on us as well. And I say that because when different academic traditions come together, it kind of results in a cosmic disorder. I use quantum language. so that's where we have to find some sort of bridge some sort of commonality between how different traditions could be, put together. And if we don't do that, we go back to feeling like an imposter. We feel so dislocated that eventually, if it is not resolved, we start feeling like an imposter again. I'll just very quickly give you an instance of how I realized this. So when I teach psychopathology, find the relevance of Western tradition in the way that they are great at labeling the disorder. This is something we need because we live in a world that requires cognitive clarity. Even patients ask us to give them labels. Hey, what disorder am I having?
Yeah.
So in that way, the Western tradition is doing a great work, but then the Eastern tradition, mainly the Vedic Indian tradition, it's kind of good at explaining the process of the disorder as to why it happens, the subjective reality of it. So, unless there is this community that identifies the bridge, one of us will keep on feeling like an imposter, or will keep on feeling dislocated. So I think one of the ways we can avoid this experience of feeling imposterized is by bringing in these communities, like you said. I think you already talked about that. So that was just an experience that I wanted to share, that I no longer feel like an imposter, but now I slightly feel dislocated, and I'm working towards that. Thank you so much. You're amazing speakers. Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing. That is wonderful. I often said one of the big learnings I've had, and this has been working with Indigenous students, is questioning where I got my knowledge from, where it came from, where did it come from, and that has opened many doors for me. So thank you for sharing. Go ahead, Rina.
Sabrina, I put something quickly in the chat when you were talking about, you were using the word fit in, and I found that I actually had a visceral reaction to that. And I did put in the goal when we're speaking with our students, if we're having this discussion, is we're not to use fit in or assimilate, but just to celebrate diversity.
Yes, for sure.
We're all of value. Everything, all of your experience can be different from the person sitting next to you, and please bring it to the table. So I had a completely different experience, and I know that we're running out of time. I actually started a master's in education program, and the first course was about Indigenous inclusion in the classroom. And the course structure itself was so atypical of the opposite of inclusion that I actually left that program. Because the course was, the structure of the course was so hypocritical to what it was supposedly teaching that I immediately said, I don't belong here. And I felt, and I have a fairly decent educational background, without citing a bunch of letters, that I was not going to be included in this. And I find that very interesting, that even that the structure of academia is so ingrained and so limited that it couldn't even see itself. That it wasn't that it was actually limiting. Yes, it wasn't being inclusive.
No.
But anyway, thank you very much for this.
No, I agree with you. I am sorry if I did not make myself clear. I completely agree with you. The purpose is not to fitting in, and that was the whole point about talking about mattering. That you can never make it about fitting in, but about being valued and feeling that you are part of a community, even though if you don't feel like you're fitting in, because you never have to fit in. You don't have to adapt yourself to the environment. The environment needs to adapt itself to you and value you as you come. So that's what I was trying to express, even if I didn't do it correctly. But thank you so much for clarifying it.
Yes. And so I don't know how we do for time, Jenny. We can stay a bit longer if people are interested in having more discussion. We're okay, but I don't know. I will defer to our hosts.
Oh no, I'm bad at that sort of thing. But I wonder, did anyone else have anything, and maybe like one more comment from anyone to share, knowing that we'll try to continue to have these conversations here. And I'm seeing people are also heading
Yeah,
out.
if they have to go.
Mhm.
I just
I just
wanted,
wanted to say the timing of this is so perfect because Navdeep and I are research partners into like trying to design some bridging pedagogy. And some of the language that you've provided is really helpful. And she and I are actually going into a meeting with each other from here. So we have lots to talk about. But like it was very, very helpful and insightful, even just to have that specific language was very, very helpful. And the specific insights were amazing because your emphasis on that sense of value, that like there is value in everybody's experience, is what we are trying to put at the center and trying to figure out how to make that make sense for more people pedagogically. So yeah,
so,
huge thanks for this.
thank
Thank
you. And thank you for all the candid participation and all that. I appreciate it. One thing that happened to me once, I was sitting with a student who had, I met him when he was doing his master's here at Acadia, and he left halfway through the master's because he was having, all kind of issues, and a lot of, and they did not have to do with doing research in biology. It was, a whole suite of other issues that had to do with migration and, all kind of issues. And, he found his path, was about to finish a PhD, came to do a presentation of all the marvelous things that he had experienced. And then when he's sharing his path, he says, and then, I hit this point, and I felt like an imposter. And that really, it shook me because I'm like, it is not you, because I
Yeah.
remember everything that he had done. He was, an excellent student, stellar, that's no, but that wasn't the point. He was involved with the community. He volunteered in the community. He volunteered with the grad students. He volunteered, everywhere. You would see him everywhere. And he never felt included or
valued.
even completely valued and comfortable here. So, I remember asking him, it's like, so he finished the presentation and they talk about and then I said, can you please share with us some of the things that you did outside of biology? And then he went and he started mentioning all the things that he was doing, and I left it there. And then we had a conversation and I talked to him about imposterization. It's like, you have done everything a person can do to be part of a community. You did everything and then some more. Yet you never felt that way and you had to go elsewhere. So, my friend, this was not you.
Not
And I
you.
shared this vocabulary and we ended up writing a piece together.
Amazing.
We had to we shared common stories.
Yeah.
And we had the other part of the story of each other that we didn't have. And then we wrote a piece that is hopefully going to come in a book soon. But it's that, what he learned about me and what I learned about him, and why we felt or we were in that position.
Amazing. Amazing.
But yeah, it was for me, it was so shocking because I could see it in him. See, but do I see it in me? That's a bit harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, one thing's like, we never have enough time because I don't know what happens to our time all the time. Yeah. Yeah, but it's just that emphasis on not the individual, but the community that it's not about the individual, it's about the system and the community, right? So it's a system that is dragging people down. And I think it's the community that will help you come out of it.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to improve the community.
Yes.
That's our goal.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
but I think there is a lot of power really in knowing and naming things, and having the conversations. Yeah, it's this power of knowledge, and
Absolutely.
we should talk about it. That's my thing. It's like let's talk about it. I'm really tired of the silence.
Yes.
Yeah. And at least knowing what you're dealing with and making
and that you're not the only one who feels this way.
Yes. For sure. Yeah, because that isolation of like, oh, it's only happening to me is not going to help anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing.
That phrase, I hear you, It is so underused. You really hear someone when you hear that.
Yes.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so very much for having us. And as I said, we were not experts in the area. We just want to share this knowledge with people so you can go and find out more and know that it's not you. Really, in this case, it's really not you.
It's really not you.
Not you.
We are so grateful. I mean, we were all just saying that we need to start that conversation and talk together. And I think having you join us today really helped to start that conversation amongst us. So reading through the chat, listening to people's personal experiences, I felt a genuine sense of solidarity. And even though I might not have met everyone in the call here face to face just yet, I hope we all felt that community and solidarity today. And I hope, and Tommy, you can include this in the recording, that everyone who was here today and who sees the recording also feels comfortable reaching out to the center to continue to have these conversations. If they're feeling imposterized, if they're feeling imposter syndrome, that they'll reach out and know that we would love to chat and support. So thank you so much, Elyana and Juan. Really appreciate this chat. And yeah, thank you everyone for coming and joining us today.